actually more of a very pasty or just very gummy, very sticky concoction. But really, that is it. I mean, those four ingredients mixed together in a bowl, and then you basically set that aside. You'll cover it with plastic wrap, and then you set it aside and you let it sit. So I'm going to actually transfer this to a Pyrex glass bowl so that the plastic wrap sticks better. It doesn't fit very well around aluminum or around stainless steel bowls. So I'm just going to transfer this to another bowl and put some plastic on it. And there we have the bread, at least the dough, the gummy dough inside of the Pyrex glass bowl covered with plastic wrap. You can see here. And I actually like to tape the plastic wrap on. That way there's no chance in any air getting in. And when the yeast starts to ferment the flour, this keeps the gases from escaping, and it's allowed to ferment, and that will sit for 19 hours. So we will leave it here and return in another 19 hours and continue on with the process. Okay, it's been 19 hours, and you can see that the dough has significantly increased in size, almost spilling out of the bowl. I have removed the plastic at this point. I probably should have left it in the stainless steel bowl considering the amount that it has risen, but again, I did like having the plastic wrap seal so well to the glass bowls. Now what we have right here beside of it, I have floured a cookie sheet, and the reason that I use a cookie sheet rather than just using the counter is that the cleanup process is considerably easier just using the cookie sheet. So what I'm going to do at this time is I'm going to transfer the dough onto the cookie sheet, and I will be basically folding the dough over, not kneading. You do not knead this kind of bread. If you do, it'll be less effective during the rising process that comes later on. So, alright, it's time to put the dough out onto the flour. Now you can see I'm going to take the dough and turn it out onto the flour. Coat my hands in flour and cover the top of the dough with flour. And then you just fold it over onto itself several times. Keep your hands floured. Add some more. And then you punch the dough down. Get the bubbles out. the seam on the bottom. And then we place that on top of the cornmeal. Then we take even more cornmeal and sprinkle that on top. And that will set for 2 to 3 hours. Now, about 30 minutes before putting the bread into the oven, you want to start preheating the oven to 450 degrees with a cast iron Dutch oven inside of the oven while it's preheating. The reason for preheating this long is many ovens will, during the preheating set, will let you know that it's done preheating, but oftentimes they do not reach the temperature that you are trying to heat them to, which is why I have a very inexpensive but very effective oven thermometer in my oven that reads the accurate temperature at the level of which we're going to be cooking. So, again, we'll be turning the oven to 450 degrees, and then once it's at that temp, I will be removing the Dutch oven and placing the bread inside of it, and then placing that back into the oven. And sorry for earlier when I was forming the dough into a ball. I didn't realize that you weren't able to see that I was off camera for the majority of that time, but I did form it into a ball with a seam side down and place that on the towel. So once the oven's preheated, we will place the bread into the oven. Now at this point, I have already placed the dough into the preheated oven and Dutch oven. It was very difficult for me to get that shot at this point. I had to work quickly, and the Dutch oven is extremely hot, so basically you just transfer the dough that's set for it. This one's set for about 2.5 hours, and it goes into the oven with the lid on top of the Dutch oven, and you can see the oven set to 450 and my little oven thermometer as well, and it will set in the oven for 30 minutes, at which point we will take the lid off the Dutch oven and bake another 15 minutes. Okay, it's been 30 minutes, so we are going to take the lid off of the Dutch oven. Be very careful, it's extremely hot. And you can see how the bread's already coming along. We're going to close the oven and let it run for another 15 minutes. After that, it will be finished. It has now been 15 minutes, and I have taken the bread out of the oven. This is the finished product. I'm going to let it sit for about another 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then transfer it to another place to cool a little bit more. But I will cut it in half once it has finished cooling enough and let you see the inside, and that will be it. And here we have the finished product after it has cooled. It's quite easy to slice, and sourdough bread is actually very good for you. It's one of the best as far as digestion is concerned. You can see the rough edges of the crust. Oftentimes you can score that before you cook it, and it helps vent a little, but I just like